What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dogs and Hogs. We are here at Wire Park. A little different setting today, Russ. We are inside because, to be
you're a
quite honest,
pansy.
you're not
Let's be
wrong.
honest.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It is way too cold to be outside for this show. I'm not even going to lie. We've got Rodina Bolsey joining us online. I am your host, Bobby Andrews. We got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, we're going to talk about, the Tech game this past weekend, big rivalry weekend.
Yep.
Talk about a couple more games like the Iron Bowl. That game was insane. We're going to get into obviously previewing Alabama, getting some.
We got some stuff to talk about there.
We certainly got some stuff to talk about, and as always, we'll get into some barbecue chatter at the end here soon. So, folks, stay tuned for that. Also, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you comment, leave comments in the chat, and Roddy will be sure to throw those up in here, and we will answer all your questions and comments. And it's just more fun when you guys kind of chime in and give us your input as well. So
in the beauty of live stream, cut my volume down a little bit, man. You're yelling in my ears. I feel like Kirby's giving me a pregame SEC press. There we go.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's a lot better.
All right, cool.
All right, there we
go. Turn his mic up a little bit.
All right,
there it goes. We got it.
So we're making some adjustments on the
crowd.
spot.
The crowd that we attract does not care about getting mics right. Yeah. They're just impressed I have a mic on right now that fits my head.
Just want to be able to hear you. That melodious voice. Hey, did you guys hear Jordan Davis singing?
That is all that's on my Twitter feed right now, but I have not clicked to listen yet. I've not been in a position to turn it on, but apparently the dude can sing from what I've seen. So
got pipes.
I have not heard that. Interesting. Very interesting.
Maybe
get him on the show for a Christmas album.
Some point throughout the show, we'll hit that.
I was about to say, Jason Kelsey and Travis, they did that. They made that Christmas song. Yeah, he could be on that next Christmas album that they do in Philly there. Anyways.
We ain't worried about Christmas yet.
Oh, really? You're not a Christmas guy yet?
No, I am now that Thanksgiving's over.
Oh, okay.
But I actually follow along with one of the great historians of Georgia football, Jeff Dantzler. I tell my kids this. He says, if you don't beat Tech, you don't put a Christmas tree up. And I agree with that. So
I like it.
We threatened our kids with it. Very fortunately, the Dawgs pulled it out over there on the flats. But, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. We'll talk about that game here in a minute. Obviously, college football playoff rankings came out.
Yeah.
Georgia at 1, Michigan at 2, and then 3 is Washington, 4 is Florida State, 5 is Oregon, and 6 is Texas, I think.
Yeah, I gotta pull them up.
Yeah. It's tough to keep track of, coming out every single Tuesday and doing the show Wednesday and making sure we talk about it.
So, I think this is these college football rankings are crazy, and I think they give us. I mean, we're obviously very grateful for it because it gives us a lot to talk about. But the committee, man, they're in a spot. What are they going to do? Because that's been the whole thing. All right, there's the rankings. All right, so yeah, you got it right. Georgia, Michigan, Washington, FSU, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Alabama. So of the top 8, how many of those top 8s have to play somebody else in the top 8 this week? Georgia and Bama have to play. Michigan has to play Iowa. Ohio State obviously doesn't. Washington plays Oregon.
Yeah.
That's a win. That's a win in your end game.
Yeah.
For those two right there.
I mean, whoever wins that game is in, obviously. I think we'll get into that later.
You've got that, right? So it's interesting to me. So what are they going to do? Are they putting in the 4 best teams?
Right.
Or the 4 most deserving teams?
Yeah.
Because those are not the same thing.
Exactly. Did you watch the clip, Roddy? You reposted it actually today of Kirk Herbstreit talking about, they have a duty to put the 4 best teams in the college football playoff. I don't know if did you see that clip?
Is that the one where he dropped a F-bomb?
F-bomb?
Yes, I did see it.
Yeah, I was not expecting that from Kirk.
It's 33 seconds if you guys want to watch it.
Hey, go ahead.
Well, cut it off at the end. My kids watch this show, so we can't drop those. We'll leave it off for now.
Okay.
But his point is this, right? And he's not wrong. Their job is to put the 4 best teams in the playoff. Now then, we can sit here and argue, and Kirk said this, we can sit here and argue who the 4 best teams are. That's one of the beautiful things about college football. We all have our biases. We all have the things that we think is right and wrong. But that's their jobs with the 4 best teams.
Yeah.
If you had to rank right now college football rankings, who are you putting as your 4 best teams right now before the conference championship games are played? I'll go first so that you can you can follow up. You can get a minute to think.
Okay.
Because I thought about this.
Okay.
Georgia's number 1. It's not particularly close.
Right.
Michigan's number 2.
Sure.
I think from there, in my opinion, right now the best team is Alabama.
Okay.
Now that gets sticky because you got Texas. You got to figure out in there. Texas beat Bama this year,
Right?
Early in the
But
season.
they're a much different team than
if I had to put money right now, if I had to put the money line down right now, and this is where it comes down to, because people love to sit here and say, no, that's not right. That's fine. I'm not a betting man. I've never bet on sports in my life.
Me either.
I'm not smart enough to do it. But if I was, and if you are, and there's a money line, where are you putting your money right now? If Texas plays Alabama, where are you putting your money?
Alabama.
It's not even close.
Right.
So you got Georgia, Michigan, Alabama. Bless Florida State's heart. I would have had them in there until their quarterback, until Jordan Travis got hurt.
Yeah.
And in my opinion right now, and I know they beat them earlier in the year, and I think it's going to flip this time. I think Oregon's number 14.
I agree. I think Oregon should be in the top 4. So the way
I'd put Texas in there before Oregon.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know.
That's a serious defense.
Well,
listen, I like Texas, and I thought Texas was going to be in the college football playoff very early on. As soon as they beat Alabama, I said that they're going to be in. And then I started to change my opinion as the year has gone on and as Alabama has gotten better and better and better. But my top 4 will be Georgia at 1, Michigan at 2. I really can't put Florida State in there without Jordan Travis. It hurts because I do like Florida State. I like Keon Coleman. I like what they got going on there. I'm not like a Florida State hater. So I think I would put Oregon at 3 and Alabama at 4.
Right.
I think I would flip. I would put, yeah.
Now then, we could play the what if games for the rest of this show right now, and go there. And the the playoff committee is obviously hoping, right? They're hoping Georgia wins. They're hoping Michigan wins.
Yeah.
Because that gives them 2 very clear answers there, Georgia, Michigan. And I don't know.
They're hoping Florida State loses.
They're hoping Florida State loses. They're probably hoping Washington beats Oregon because you can't leave them out if they're undefeated conference champ. Yeah. I don't think Washington's going to beat Oregon. I think Oregon's going to beat Washington.
Yeah.
And the nightmare stuff for them comes in right if Bama beats Georgia, if the Dogs lose this weekend. Because then what do? Texas beat Bama head to head. And even though we can sit here and say now, like one of Chris Hiddle just said, Bama to beat Texas by 10, I agree. But in my opinion, I think it would be way off track to not look back at a head-to-head game where they played and not put Texas in over Bama. Right, wrong, or indifferent. And that's where the deserving versus best conversation comes up. And that's where people want to file lawsuits and do all that kind of stuff. So, I don't see how, if their job is to put the 4 best teams in, which is what the chair, the dude that talks all the time publicly for the committee, I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
Boo Corrigan. He has said over and over that their job is to put the 4 best teams in, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Unless Georgia gets boat raced by Alabama, which is not going to happen, Georgia's in.
And I wish I could agree with that. I wish I could. But I just feel like year after year, the college football playoff committee has, I don't even know if it's a grudge. I don't know what it is against Georgia. They look at us and they want to put a Pac-12 team ahead of us. They want to put an Oklahoma ahead of us in years past. Like I just think I think this year it may be different, and we will still find ourselves in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
However, in years past, it does not make me feel the way that I am looking at this game. It's a must-win for Georgia, and that's how everyone is looking at it. That's how all Bulldogs are looking at it.
Yeah.
It's just but to get into the college football playoff, it's basically a must-win because you can't take that risk. You can't leave it up to the committee.
No, you can't. You can't take the risk. But there's no way in God's green earth that you're going to argue Georgia's not one of the 4 best teams in college football by playing Alabama. If they lose to Alabama, what are the possibilities for undefeated teams if Georgia was to lose? Your possibilities are Michigan, Washington, Florida State, right?
Yep.
And Florida State's going to beat Louisville. Louisville's not great
after losing to Kentucky. Yeah.
I think Florida State is too good on line of scrimmage. They're going to beat Louisville. If Washington wins, I don't think Washington's going to win. But so let's hope for that. Let's hope for Oregon to win. Georgia's a lot better than Oregon, and I think the committee knows that. I don't know. It's good. Let's just win. Let's go over there and beat Saban. Let's break the curse of the Atlanta versus Bama voodoo magic, because we haven't beat them in Atlanta yet
since Halloween of 1940 something.
That doesn't count.
Yeah,
that was playing the cow pasture.
Exactly. We haven't beat them in the college football or in the SEC championship ever in history. So,
but it's a big difference. Georgia is the best team in college football, and that's not me being biased sitting here.
Yeah.
Every stat that you see points to Georgia being better than Alabama than anybody out there.
Yeah.
You know, there's a ton of Twitter detectives that pull stats. You can find them all out there, and there's not a metric that you pull where you don't look at it and rank Georgia as the best team in college football. People say, well, what about Georgia's strength schedule versus top 25? Well, go pull their offensive defensive rankings versus top 25, and then pull Oregon, pull Washington, pull whoever. Georgia is overall the best team. It's not even close. Can Bama beat us? Yes.
Yeah, one of the things that factors into that is, okay, when you say best, you have to qualify that somehow. So they've actually written down their formulas as to what matters, because best is subjective. What do you think's best? Hey, this team's got a great defense. This team has a great offense. This team's got a great quarterback. This team's got a great coaching staff. So they actually have some, points of data points that they point to. One of the first ones they point to is conference championship. So all of a sudden, if you don't win that conference championship, that really holds. It's against you. Versus, hey, how hard is it to go 12-0 in the regular season? That's a big deal. But they can still say, well, yeah, but you didn't win your championship that you didn't have to play in. It's almost like it's a penalty for winning the regular season. Now you got to win, play in a championship game, division on division. So if you lose one there, to me, that shouldn't be held against you. But it can be because, let's say it's Georgia and Texas. Texas wins. They are, 12-1. Now all of a sudden, Georgia's 12-1, but one's a conference champion, even though they're leaving that conference, and one is not. But one was number one wire to wire.
By the way, did you see that the Big 12 gave Gundy the Big 12 Coach of the Year award this year over Sarkisian?
Interesting.
Wow.
I like Gundy.
That's petty.
But
Sarkisian's the Coach of the Year.
Yeah.
Well, here's the fear we all have, right? Here's the fear. Roddy, you need to go back in the comments just a minute ago. I think the guy's name was Tim Fletcher, if I saw it right, about what the committee's going to try to do. There it is. This is what I think the fear is for all college football fans, by the way. Like, I'm assuming all these other teams have a couple of slappies doing a show on a Wednesday night as well, talking about what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They say 4 best, but it is more likely to be the 4 easiest to justify. I agree with that. I think that's the feeling that we all get from the outside looking in, thinking about this playoff committee and what they're going to try to do. The 4 easiest to justify. And you don't know that, by the way, until it comes after this weekend. But yeah, let's say, look at it right now, because we talked about it a minute ago. I got to keep pulling my rankings up. They've got Ohio State in front of Texas. They're both 11-1. If Texas beats Iowa, isn't that who they play? No, they play Oklahoma State, sorry. If Texas beats Oklahoma State, are they now better than Ohio State? I don't know, but it's easier to justify putting them in as a conference champion over Ohio State. That doesn't mean they're better, because Ohio State is they're not playing this weekend. They're sitting at home, and now Texas plays a conference championship game. Yeah. But they will 100%, Texas will 100% jump Ohio State if they win their conference championship.
Yeah. I would agree with that, considering Ohio State, like you said, doesn't play in one thing I want to touch on about like years past is you mentioned the importance, Roddy, of like, the championship games and whether or not, the committee can hold that to a team or not. But didn't we see Notre Dame get in a few years ago, and they do not play at the rarity that's like non-conference
Ohio
aligned.
State was in last year.
Well, we were in 2 years ago. I mean, it ain't like it can't happen, right?
Well, but they don't even play a conference championship. Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know. I think that's a different conversation for a different time. But I did want to bring that up because that's something that I think a lot of people.
Oh, that's Notre Dame. Yeah. Notre Dame has now moved on to about our number 4 team on our hate list. Ohio State had jumped ahead of them the last few years. Michigan is clearly ahead of them now.
I think Michigan is on top of everybody.
They're public enemy number 1. Yeah. My wife called me the other day, and we're Baptists. We're not Catholics. We don't have to go to confession and repent. But if we were, she would have had to go see the priest, because she saw an old man in Hobby Lobby in Oconee County. Nice, pleasant old man. He had a Michigan shirt on, and she yelled at him, "Cheaters never win." Are you freaking kidding me? You got the kids with you.
Wow.
I don't know that she verbalized it, but she did call me and say that she needed to go apologize because of the way she looked at the man and what she wanted to yell. So yeah, Michigan is public enemy number one, and Michigan's a really good football team.
Yeah.
I think Georgia's a lot better, but yeah.
Yeah. It's the we'll get into the Ohio State and Michigan game here in a little bit, but before we get into that, Mark Stoops was Texas A&M's head coach for about like 3 hours.
Yeah, for as long as Carmelo Anthony was with the Hawks.
And then wasn't, and now Mike Elko was hired as Texas A&M head coach after Jimbo Fisher is out. What are your thoughts on Mark Stoops compared to Mike Elko? Like, what's what are your thoughts?
They're both middle-aged, balding, slightly overweight white guys. Like you could almost do a body swap on them.
Yeah,
and could have put one in for the other. And 95% of college football fans will not have known the difference. I mean, they seem like a very similar hire, right?
Yeah,
they're defensive guys that are tough, program building type. They're not flashy. They're not. Going to make all the waves on social media. You know what you're getting with them, and you've seen the track record of them being successful at programs that have historically not been great football programs. So, I don't know why the A&M people. I didn't follow along on Twitter, but there was a Twitter revolt basically when they announced Stoops.
Yeah,
and I don't get it. Like I think Stoops is a great coach.
I thought Stoops was. You're basically getting the same exact thing with hiring Elko.
Yeah.
I feel like there's. It doesn't make much sense to me. It did, and the revolt is what caused Stoops or for them not to hire Stoops, and then they hire Elko, and everyone's like okay with it, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I don't get it at all. I don't get the revolt, and I don't get the Elko, and I don't know. Elko seems like a good coach as well, from what I've seen. I mean, he's turned A&M. He's turned Duke around. Duke's been a good program now. It helped that he had a really good quarterback in Riley Leonard, who, by the way, entered the portal today.
What? I did not see that.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And I don't know how the portal works. And again, the greatest source of news on the planet right now seems to be Twitter, because it's just so fast of what they put out there.
Yeah.
But he entered the portal with a no contact tag on his entry. Apparently, I didn't know you could do that, but I guess like entered the do not call list. So homeboy knows where he's going already. He'll announce it probably very soon. Maybe it's Texas A&M. But
Max Johnson's already committed. The portal doesn't open for 5 days, right?
Yeah.
He's already put his name in the portal, which technically doesn't exist because he can't put it in there yet, if I'm not mistaken. And he's already committed to UNC.
Yep.
And I love Max. He's a great kid. Covered him, I think, since he's like in 8th grade. Happy for him at UNC. Think he's going to do great up there with Mac Brown. But there's a lot of names that are already – a lot of kids that know where they're going already. And technically, you're not supposed to be talking to anybody.
Well, the portal in the NIL world and everything right now pretty much looks at the NCAA and says – that's what they do. Kids show, so we got to blur it out. We don't have enough technology to make the blurry thing come over it. My kid's like, "What's data?" Oh, he's just waving at somebody behind him. That's it. But we know, right? Like
invisible wave, yeah.
They're thumbing their nose at the NCAA. Yeah. It's a freaking joke right now.
There's nothing to stop anybody from doing anything. I mean, Exhibit A is Michigan, and they use Jim Harbaugh as a scapegoat there for 3 games.
Right.
3 regular season
and he didn't even argue with it, by the way. He's like, we're going to protest. Well, we got you by the shorties. Okay, well, we're not going to protest. We're not happy about it. Okay. Yeah. And that was
we're going to fire a linebackers coach.
Yeah, for whatever reason. He had nothing to do with it. He got paid well to leave, I'm sure. But, yeah, man, the portal's wild. So I forgot where the question was even going with all that. But it changes so much now when these coaches leave with the portal coming open. This is Max Johnson's 3rd Power 5 team in 4 years.
Yeah.
Now he's a grad guy. He graduated early and can do it. So that's why he can transfer twice. But it's just screwy right now, man, with all the COVID years still happening. Joe Milton's coming back to Tennessee next year. Do you know the first year Joe Milton played college football?
No.
2018.
That's unbelievable.
He played for Michigan in 2018. That's not an exaggeration.
That's insane.
So, yeah, it's wild, man. It makes it, you got to have a coach willing right now to come in and just go after it. Yeah. Because if you don't just go after it, you get passed. I mean, that's the complaint that all these people have about Dabo at Clemson right now. Is he's not willing to adapt to the new era of college football where you're paying a quarterback $1 million a year. You're going to contact guys that are potentially coming to the transfer portal to see, hey, can you go in there next week? Because if you do, we got a spot for you. Well, we're not allowed to talk yet, but here's $2 million.
But your dad can talk. Your old high school coach can talk.
You can have an agent now, by the way. You can literally have an agent.
Who's the Washington State quarterback? Cam
Ward.
Cam Ward. He's allegedly he's got like 10 offers of at least $1 million
I believe
to go elsewhere.
I believe that.
I mean, good quarterback.
So there's some stuff out there that's wrong. There's stuff saying that quarterbacks are getting paid $6 and $7 million a year. I don't believe that. I don't think that's right. Roddy probably has more information than I do when it comes to knowing what recruits get. There may be some offers out there of $5 or $6 million over a 3 or 4 year period tied to incentives for guys. I believe that maybe has been talked about out there. But the whole thing last year with the Rashada kid at Florida, they basically promised him all this world to come to Florida. He starts looking at the bottom line on the paper for his NIL contract and is like, this is not anywhere close to what you guys told me it was going to be. So some kids are going to get absolutely screwed through the NIL process, and that's bad. Like, Eric Church got a song, right? You learn a lot from experiences. I don't know the song, but something like that. I can't even sing it, but you don't know it?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay, I don't either. But experience is a great teacher. So a lot of kids are going to get it, but you got to have a coach that's willing to come in, willing to know that you're going to have 25% of your roster hit the portal and leave. Some because some need to leave, some are not going to get playing time, but some are literally just testing free agency of college football. At this point of where we're at, here's my take on this for the night. I would say going forward, 60 to 70% of all college football players will enter the portal at some point. That doesn't mean they'll leave their school, by the way, but they're going to enter the portal. And why would they not enter the portal, by the way? If you're going to be a guy that's going to come back and be an NFL player of any caliber, 3rd, 4th round guy, you've played 2 years, you're going to come back a 3rd, come back a 4th year, go in the portal and just get offers and go back to your coaches and say, hey, man, look, North Carolina State's
market check.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
So you're going to see this happen all the time. And it's going to get out of hand like everything does. It goes unregulated. And then the NCAA is going to try to come back in. They're going to overregulate it and they're going to kill it. It's going to be ugly because regulation rarely works. But the wild west we're in right now, it's crazy.
It is wild.
And you got a couple. I mean, Georgia's going to have a lot of guys transfer. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's not a surprise. I'm thinking of a couple juniors who are going to transfer, and they will have a senior year and a COVID year. So their marketability when they go somewhere else is like, hey, you can get me for 2 years. But if you're a top quarterback, top running back, I mean, there's a lot of talk about Trevor Etienne at Florida, beating with Billy Napier yesterday. Our Florida site had a lot on him, and the 2 schools that are being bandied about are Georgia and LSU. And again, that's from the Florida side. That's not from the Georgia side. Georgia, to my knowledge, is not talking to them. They have 3 next year. Georgia will have 3 running backs on scholarship, and they have 3 coming in. So you're gonna have 6 running backs on scholarship.
You're not going to drop $1 million. You're not going to drop $700,000 on ETN to come into that room.
No, but I mean, you don't have a running back like ETN. He's really good, and the number that's being bandied about is like $30,000 a month. I know Georgia people; they're not going to pay that, but there's a school that will. And again, and what Kirby does is he uses his, he tells Class City Collective, like, look, I know you guys have a war chest. We need it on proven guys, not guys coming in. So if you were a top guy, like I said, like a Trevor, a great quarterback, you put your name in the portal and let people know, and that gives you a market test. So if you're at a school and they're only giving you $15,000 a month to pitch for a car company or an insurance agency, and you're like, look, if I go to this other school, I'm gonna get $45,000 a month, and I'll be pitching for Delta or some tech company out at UCLA. So it's
different, man.
It does. It's hey, and here's the thing, you guys. What's got us all launched on this was talking about coaches, and your Kentucky coach being the head guy for 3 hours. I don't even know that he was actually literally contacted and was going to be there. This could be a Jimmy Sexton thing, just rolling his name out there, and all of a sudden Kentucky has to come up with a crap ton of money to keep him where he's at. So a lot of names to be bandied about going into the portal. If I'm a kid, I'm like, hey, leak my name, to a journalist. I'm thinking about going in the portal, and then my school ponies up more money.
And I think it makes the job that Kirby has done, and it's Kirby Smart, by the way. Let's not get it twisted and say that it's this guy or that guy or these people around him. The job that Kirby has done is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now
That's
then,
why he's won 2
he's-
titles.
that's why he's won 2 titles. He brought in great talent on both sides of the ball. He's brought in exceptional coaches. He is a guy that has got a motor that runs like nobody else in college football, and his attention to detail is unlike anything we've seen. It's wild. Yeah. We've won 2 national championships in a row, and we're the odds-on favorite to win 3 in a row. That is you can't talk about it in a way that makes you appreciate how good that is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, I don't know. I trust him. It's funny. I read the Dog Van. I read the Vault on Roddy's site, UJ Sports, and inevitably, there's always people that are grumbling, complaining. Why are we not doing this? Why are we not doing that? Why are we not signing this kid? Why are we not putting a fence up around the state of Georgia? There's all these comments people make, but somebody always comes back in and says, "Hey, in Kirby we trust when it comes to Georgia football, and until proven differently, that's the route that I'm going to go."
Yeah, and that's very fair. Speaks for itself. The 2 national
You got
champions.
increased parity right now with the portal,
Yep.
with recruiting. Kirby came in was spending more money than anybody on recruiting. Now other people are copying him, but he's managed to have 5 assistants named head coaches in 8 years. That's phenomenal. And in increased parity, he's gone on a streak of 3 undefeated seasons in a row. It's just unheard of. So
Yep.
This is the golden age. I think you're right. So you can't put it into words to be the odds-on favorite to win a third. Just mind-boggling.
Go freaking Dogs. That's what I'm talking about. So.
That's right. Go Dogs indeed. And the Dogs won this past weekend in a massive rivalry game against Tech. I say massive because, there's got to be some excitement whenever you talk about Tech, because recently I feel like there hasn't been.
Yeah.
And there was some excitement towards the end of this game a little bit. 31-23 was the final score. Wasn't, as big of a blowout as I think that other people were talking about. But Tech's been pretty good to surprise a lot of people. They threw the whole entire book at us, I feel like, in this game.
Buster Faulkner was on point.
Oh, yeah. And no Lad McConkey, no Brock Bowers, no Rah-Rah, and no Tate Ratledge on the line. So all those guys, they did not play. What are your thoughts on the 31-23 victory?
Shoot. Stinking survive and advance. I mean, that's all it was in that situation. It's funny to me. Roddy was one of these people, so he's got to come on the carpet here right now about how the Tech game shouldn't be played anymore. And I guess it maybe he's going to argue because he's smart, because he's going to argue that it's making his point. Because we're like, Tech's not competitive. It's not a good game for Georgia. But, man, about halfway through that game, when Tech is throwing back some punches, you see they've got the potential to win the game.
Yeah.
You get nervous a little bit, and you feel that little bit of a sinking gut feeling in you where you're like, oh, crap. We are in a dogfight again. This is not the same Tech we played the last 4 or 5 years. And I guess Roddy's point is going to be, yeah, if you lose to them, then you've lost to, you've lost to a flyweight and you're the defending heavyweight champion. But Tech can be good. Brent Key's a good coach.
Oh, yeah.
I think Buster Faulkner's done a good job. That Haynes King is a dude playing quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
And the portal changes everything. They're in Atlanta. They don't have a big base of donors and all that, so I don't know how much money they have to spend. But Atlanta can recruit. Brent Key loves that school, and he had them fired up and ready to roll, dude. They look good. That's the best I've seen Tech look all year long.
Their offense was the run game. Haynes King, like you mentioned, they were rolling. They were doing really, really well.
I think Georgia's game plan was one to where it was literally run the ball, score, run the ball, score, and just try to shorten the game and move on. I mean, it was. I don't give a rip that the score is 31-23. Was that the score?
Yeah.
I don't care at all. We beat Tech, and in 5 years, we won't even remember that game. We'll still talk about the ones 2 or 3 years ago. We beat them 40-something, 50-something, whatever the scores were. We won't remember this game other than it looks like a little bit of a turning point for Tech's program, which I'm fine with. I like tough football games. I like competitive games.
Yeah.
But, that Tech played well. Georgia didn't play bad. They didn't play great. They didn't play bad. I think the game plan was one of where, again, just try to take the clock away and kill the game, which we did. Survive in advance. Nobody else got hurt. We held out 3 of our dudes. So
Carson Beck threw the ball 20 times.
Yeah.
13 for 20. 175, 175 passing yards. So not the to your point, yes, it was a heavy run game. Kendall Milton was 18 carries for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had himself a game.
Yeah.
That was really, really cool to see. I have loved Kendall Milton for a long time, and it's good to see him finally feeling like or looking like he is all the way back. He's not, worried about re-injuring that knee anymore. He just looks really, really good right now. So
yeah, he's been the difference for this team down the stretch as far as being able to dominate games.
Yeah.
And that's not always been the case. He's been injured a lot of his career, and that's not a knock on the kid. He's been injured.
Yeah.
We said earlier in the year, Roddy got right speed of Roddy argue. Roddy argues a lot. I said a couple of weeks ago, a couple of months ago now, that Dejon Edwards at the time was probably one of the most indispensable players on the team because you didn't have anybody else at running back that was your guy.
Right.
Now that's no longer the case because Kendall Milton is running in a way that we haven't seen him. And I can speak on behalf of a lot of Georgia fans here. This is not a personal attack on Kendall Milton. He seems like a great guy. And Lord knows I don't want his dad to get mad at me on Twitter. That dude is jacked. And he comes at people that try to run their mouth, which is fun to watch. But Kendall Milton was a guy where you looked at for the last 2 or 3 years and just like, that was a miss in recruiting.
Yeah.
Because he was a 5-star guy, right, Roddy? I mean, he was ranked super high.
Yeah.
He was a guy that we took. I think we took him over. Maybe it was the Zach Evans kid or somebody else. We took Kendall Milton over another 5-star kid that was very productive. I think the kid ended up being troubled through it. But you look at him, and you don't ever want to. I hate when people use the term bust about college football players because you can't use the word bust about a kid that has injuries. That's
Right.
ridiculous. Like, shut up with that. Like, don't say that. But a lot of fans had that feeling about, well, that was a miss. Well, Kendall Milton is proving right now that dude was not a miss. I mean, he is now breaking tackles. He's now picking his knees up when he's going through holes. He's now punishing people on the run. He's now making contact and getting 4 or 5 more yards.
Yeah. He
He is now the type of bell cow running back that this offense desperately needs if they want to win 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Milton's been the dude.
is in your eyes, I mean, obviously Milton had kind of the workload. You talked about being a bell cow running back.
Yep.
Him and Dejon, do you see them splitting snaps the rest of the, I guess,
Yeah.
the rest of the way, being the
Yeah.
short amount of time that we have left the season, and being, like a change of pace back, one being, what do you see them being in the backfield?
I don't think of it as a change of pace back. When I think about change of pace back, I think about if you go back to my time, you think about Tyson Browning.
Yeah.
You go back even last year, you look at Kenny McIntosh. Like, that was a change of pace guy, a guy who had a different skill set. So when he came in the game, they're going to be a receiving threat. They're going to be a get the ball to him on the perimeter threat. They're going to be throw the screen to him, give him a draw, give him some opportunity to have one-on-one situations. We've never talked about this, by the way. One of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to sports guys talking is saying that guys are good in space. Like, here's the deal. There's not a running back on the planet that's not good in space. Like, if you give me space, I'll get 7 yards.
Yeah.
What they're saying when they say give that guy the ball in space, what they're saying is put him in a situation to where he's got a one-on-one with a running back, with a defender out there. He's not having to go through a pile, power through break tackles. He's got a chance to make one guy miss and then make a lot of plays for you. Go down the field, make one guy miss and score. That's what they're talking about with that. They say in space. I think that's bad terminology. I don't think Dejon Edwards is any different than Kendall Milton when it comes to that. They're both north-south runners. They're both hit the hole, go forward guys. They do it differently. Kendall Milton is an upright runner. You think about Eric Dickerson back in the day. You think about Eddie George back in the day. You think about Derrick Henry recently. They're big, tall guys that are 6'3", 220, 230 pounds, and run straight ahead. They don't wiggle side to side.
Right.
They stand up tall, and they run through tackles because they're super powerful. Dejon Edwards doesn't run that way, but Dejon Edwards is not a burner. I don't know what he runs in the 40, but he doesn't look like a 4.4 guy or anything like that to me. We're not getting the ball in the perimeter doing all this stuff, but he's a great cut guy. He's a great press the hole, make one cut, and dart far for 4 or 5 more yards. He's got more wiggle than Kendall Milton, but he's not using that wiggle to go to the perimeter. He's not using that wiggle to outrun guys on wheel routes down the sideline and catch something there. So I don't think it's necessarily a change of pace. I think it's a situation. They have different styles, and they keep the pace of the offense the same, which makes it hard for the defense throughout a game.
do they complement each other well in that way rather than maybe, like you mentioned, like an upright runner and maybe, like I said,
Yeah.
a change of pace back? But
Oh yeah, because they do, because your offense can keep pounding somebody.
Okay.
And especially when we get to the point where we're running the ball over and over and over again, you can't give the guy the ball 18 times in a row with no break and expect them to still be consistently good. Like, it's hard to do.
Yeah.
So you give him the ball 3 or 4 times, bring the other guy in for 2.
Yeah.
If Milton is the hot hand, he's going to get 3 out of every 5 carries, and Dejon's going to get 2 more. And guess what? The next 3 Milton gets, he feels that much better. And it's proven to be the case, right? Like, you see him now. The fourth quarter, I love Georgia's running game in the fourth quarter of football games. Like, it's so boring early to watch them run up the middle. I talk about my wife and my daughter on here a lot, and I love watching football with them because they're passionate Georgia fans, both of them. My wife's name is Shelly, give her a shout out, and my daughter Carly. They're passionate. But inevitably, they watch Georgia games like, why do we keep running up the middle? Why do they keep hitting that guy in the back? Why do they keep going right in that gap where everybody's at? Well, you don't always understand what the defense make you do, for one. So you can't hit it and run around here and try to get it outside because they're fast enough to run you down. But I use this box analogy all the time. Georgia throws body blows for the first 2.5, 3 quarters. They punch you right below the ribs, like right there. They hit you in the kidney one time. They hit you in the gut. And eventually, you don't want to be a part of that no more.
Yeah.
You can only get punched in the ribs so many times for, like, all right, this is no fun. You can have it. I'm leaving. I'm going home now. I don't want to play this game anymore. That's what Georgia does to people in the run game.
They also punch him in the pass game too when they jump up and try to block the. You see the defensive lineman jump up, try to knock the ball down. Shows you those ribs, man.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The offensive line. Hey, good job, Roddy. Like, offensive linemen, if you ever see a defender trying to bat a ball down, if they give you this right here, you're trying to knock.
You're making pee blood is what you're gonna make him do.
I don't even know if I can say it. You're trying to knock their nipples through their shoulder blades. Like, you are trying to hammer them.
Yeah, you don't want to jump. He'll jump one time.
Ask that defender in Tennessee who Mims and Tate Ratliff called.
Yeah. The alley-oop.
Yeah. If he was a mom, I can't say that one. We'll keep moving. But yes, they're trying to press that. If they give you the ribs, they give you the chest, you attack it. And they do a great job of it.
Yeah. Well,
I can see Dejon Edwards running more inside zone and more pass stuff. When those gaps open up on the inside zone, those cutback lanes, he's great powering through there, cutting through there. But Kendall Milton, counters power with him, especially off the right side. There was Georgia Tech had nothing they could do to stop him running off the right side, run off the right tackle. They just did it over and over again.
Because Amaris Mims is a monster.
He is.
He is a monster.
And Tate Ratliff might be back this weekend. So all of a sudden you've got Tate and him side by side, and you're going up against 15 and 41 for Alabama, 2 of the best outside linebackers in the nation.
Yep. They're good.
But sometimes you run right at them.
That's exactly right. And that's what especially, by the way, and last year, Bama had, arguably the best defensive player in college football, arguably, because we had Jalen Carter, Will Anderson.
Yep.
But good Lord, that dude caught Broderick Jones in the playoffs or whenever we played him. He ain't want none of that. Broderick Jones locked him down last time he saw him. That was 2 years ago, wasn't it? Sheesh. Time flies on me.
I think it was.
We didn't play Bama last year.
Right.
Not the postseason. We played Ohio State and TCU. But
and LSU in the SEC championship.
But Amaris Mims and Tate Ratliff, if you've never seen them in person, by the way, they're different humans. They're different humans.
Yeah, they're massive.
I asked Kirby like a year or so ago. I was over there for something, and I say, "All right, coach, shoot me straight. Where would I be on your recruiting board?" He said, "Not." He said, "Yeah, so wouldn't have played here, son." Yeah. He said, "For the record, I wouldn't have either." Yeah. But they're just different humans. So you run to that side, and those guys, a good call on that again too, Roddy. They just press people out of the way and they move them, and that's why Kendall Milton's been so good. By the way, he's so powerful to where if you get the defenders moving backwards, you get their center of gravity moving, then get them off their, get them on their heels a little bit, knock them off the balls of their feet. and they get standing upright, Kendall Milton punishes people.
Yep.
Dejan Edwards finds holes, finds cracks, cuts, and squirts forward. But Kendall Milton punishes people, and that's fun to watch.
So rivalry week, obviously we
Yeah.
saw, Georgia beat Georgia Tech. We saw a couple crazy games. Michigan beat Ohio State.
Yep. Which was a boring game.
Yeah, we don't really have to touch on that one too much. I feel like Ohio State could have won that one if they didn't play as conservative as they did. But
their quarterback's not very good in that game. I haven't seen this year. Kyle McCord, I think his name.
I'm not.
He just didn't look great in that game.
Yeah.
So
not a huge Kyle. I saw this on Twitter. No, maybe it was the Ohio State the rival site. They were calling, so they call him Maserati Marv.
Yeah.
And they've been calling Kyle McCord Kyle Accord.
Like a Honda Accord.
Oh,
makes
my
sense. That's bad. They could thank Gus Johnson for that one. I think he's who started that Maserati Marv stuff. Yeah, he's really good. Marv is really good.
Yeah.
I think Michigan's a complete football team.
Yeah.
They just beat them down. I mean, it was a boring game to watch. They just beat them down.
Yeah. We'll talk about we'll save the fun one for the end here. We'll just kind of roll through these. Florida State beat Florida to stay relevant. It was a close game there.
It was a must win for them.
Yeah, Florida was winning early in that game, and I just think Florida State kind of found a little bit of something.
The battle of the backup quarterbacks.
Yeah,
both of them had their backup quarterbacks in Max Brown. I think this guy's name for Florida, and then Florida State had their backup
Rodemaker.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Florida State has a superior roster. They've got one of the best rosters in college football. They use the portal really well. What's you called the receiver's name earlier?
Keon Coleman.
Keon Coleman. He's really, really good.
Really good.
They've got another kid who's like 6'7" that's a receiver. His name's like Johnny Phillips or something. I actually shouldn't even try to get his name. I probably just missed it totally. It's probably totally wrong. But they've got 3 or 4 really good receivers, and they're good on lines of scrimmage, by the way. And I hate it for them, man, that Jordan Travis got hurt. Like, I pull for Florida State to be good. I don't pull for Florida State. I pull for Florida State to be good in college football because I grew up a fan of college football in the 90s when the Bobby Bowden era was there, or Peter Warwick and all those guys' work done. Like, they were just fun to watch. I think college football is better when the Blue Bloods are good, and I want Florida State to be good. But, yeah, it just really stinks for them that Jordan Travis is out.
Yeah, it does. Kentucky upset Louisville 38-31. And
are we surprised?
I was. Louisville's been, they go and they beat Notre Dame, and then you think, they're pretty good, and then they get ranked 11th, something like that, and then they go and they lose to Kentucky. I don't know. I think Kentucky, SEC team, Mark Stoops, and they're good. They're a good football team. I think we made them look a little bit worse than they actually are when we played them. But
it's like Kirby said a few weeks ago, man. Like, you run your mouth about the SEC, you want to.
Yeah.
Just call Greg Sankey. Come on down and get you some. You can have it.
Yeah. And then obviously
Louisville got it.
Yeah, they did. They did. And then obviously we'll round us out here with the SEC matchup of the week, the Iron Bowl. That game was crazy. What was that? It was 2nd and 31 or something like that, and
it got to be like 4th and 31.
Was it 4th and 31?
Yeah. Well, I think it's. Yeah, no, you're right.
It was 4th and 31.
It was the last. I mean, it was do or die. So it had to have been 4th and 31. Jalen Milroe with that huge throw to the back of the end zone. I forget who the receiver was.
Isaiah Bond.
That's right. All the James Bond jokes and
we, I mean, there's no point talking about them rushing two. It's ridiculous. You can't rush 2 guys in that situation. Alabama's too fast. Jalen Milroe can throw the ball too much.
Yeah.
Like, make him scramble. He's not going to run 31 yards and score on you in all likelihood. Right. So, yeah, I don't know. It's funny to me that Bama fans, they got more nervous, by the way, when Auburn lost to New Mexico State than if they'd have beat them. Because they're like, see, I knew it. This is the kind of crap that Auburn will do. Yeah. Get boat raced by New Mexico State and then come back and beat us. And they should have had them. Give Auburn credit for this. They're the worst passing football team I've seen in college football in a long, long time. If you take out like the Armies and Georgia Techs of the world when they run the triple option.
Auburn can run, though, I will say.
That's fine. A lot of people can run.
Yeah.
If you can't throw the ball, you usually stink like real bad. That's and they're awful. And they had Bama beat.
Yeah, they did. We'll see. We'll get into this SEC champ this matchup here in a minute, but yeah, I mean, I guess perfect segue into that right now. Might as well get into it now. But we have probably what a lot of the fans have been waiting, have been staying tuned for is to talk about this matchup this weekend against Alabama. SEC championship game. Very nervous, like we talked about. Have not beat Alabama in Atlanta in the SEC championship ever.
Yep.
It's a nervous spot to be in, especially against Nick Saban and that team over there. I mean, you can talk about your experience in the SEC championship as well. I mean, back in what 02 and just the
and 04 and 05.
You were around then too.
Yeah,
I thought you were.
He's 1,000 years old.
99 to.
No.
When did you get there?
01.
01 was your first year?
Yeah, I redshirted in 01 and played 02 through 05.
All right. Well, go ahead. Talk about that's right, because 04 was who'd you play in 04? Arkansas was 02, right?
We lost to LSU in 04.
LSU in 04. That's right.
Yep.
Talk about your SEC championship experiences and talk about how tough of games those are and what the Bulldogs face this weekend.
All right, Roddy, you may be ready to jog my memory with some of this stuff as we talk about it. So 02 was interesting. I didn't start in 02, didn't play much. I was trying to get in the rotation and I hurt my hand. So if we'll show the viewers this. You can see on the back of my hand, there's a scar right on my finger right there. It got cut early in the season. Pollock's helmet before the Clemson game came in and sliced down right there between my knuckles. The chin strap snaps right there and cut down the back of my fingers. My extensor tendons were hanging down over my hand.
Oh.
This is free. Cut this out of my time. Watch this. This is as high as my finger goes right there. Watch this.
No.
How about that? So I was out like 6 or 8 weeks that year, and I came back later in the year and got a little bit of rotational snaps since the backup guy. But that year was big for us because Coach Rick, a lot of Coach Rick's conversation for the program at that time, we talked a lot about knocking the glass ceiling off the program because we could all see there was a gap between where the Georgia program was and where we all believed the program could be.
Yeah.
And there's a glass ceiling that you would just go like, we're here, we're trying to get here. Can't stay in the camera. You get here and bump the ceiling, bump the ceiling, bump the ceiling. 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins, 7 wins. It's kind of what the program had done for a long time. So Coach Rick talked a lot about knocking the glass ceiling off the program, getting to a point where you believe you could win the SEC and putting yourself in the upper echelon teams in college football. So we were loaded in 02, man. You're talking about Boss Bailey, Tony Gilbert, John Stinchcomb, Ben Watson was on that team. I mean, you just had Jonathan Sullivan was a top 5, top 10 draft pick. Bruce Thornton, Sean Jones, loaded upperclassmen guys. So that year, man, when we ended up rolling through, if it had been the playoff or BCS era, I think we would have won the national championship in 02. We lost to Florida earlier in the season. But we get up there and we play Arkansas, and we just beat the crap out of them. I don't remember the score. I don't remember much about the game. They'd been pretty good, but they just wanted none of us that day. We beat the crap out of them. So that was awesome. The
LSU teams, maybe.
Yeah, it was that DeCory Bryant had a block punt, didn't he?
Yep.
I think DeCory had.
And the route was on from there on. It's like, okay, this is done.
Yeah. So LSU 04. I don't remember much about that. I'll give you some
ass kicking. That was an ass kicking.
Was it? All right. Well, I'll give you something embarrassing about that game. How about that then? Can I give you a personal embarrassing thing from that game?
Go ahead.
So we played LSU really well in 03. We lost to them down there in Baton Rouge, but just a great game. And we were top of the heap. They were top of the heap. And we were going on the field before the game. And by the end of the season, you wear a helmet all year long, chin strap, helmet on here, you're dirty, sweaty, nasty. You get a few bumps on your face. Okay. You get a little pimple action here and there. And I guess I was having a breakout or something. I was walking in the tunnel. It's the only trash talking kids another fans ever got me where I was like, ooh, that one hurt. And he said, hey, number 50, you need to oxecute him. I was like, ooh. Like oxy was like the little patch you clean your face with. He said, I need to oxecute him. And I was done. Like he rattled me right there saying, dude, I was like, I just kept my helmet on the rest of the game. Like, dang, but he noticed it from 25 rows up. And then they beat the crap out of us. I don't think that had anything to do with my complexion. They were a really good team that year. And so then we fast forward then to 05. And that was my senior year. So it was the most special one for me. That was the first year Shock was our quarterback. David Green had been the quarterback for my 3 years prior to that. So this was Shock's team. He was a senior. He was the leader. I was a 5th-year senior. Our offense line was experienced. It was good. And we were playing great, man. We were playing really, really great. And we went up to the Georgia Dome. And what was the score of that game, Roddy?
34-14. Killed them.
It wasn't even close.
No,
And it was beautiful.
It was complete flip of 2 years prior to that. Just beat them in every stage of the game. Could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been worse. And it was just so fun to go in there and just physically dominate a really good football team.
Yeah,
because we were good and they were good. It was set up to me a lot like this Georgia Alabama team does now. We weren't as good as the Georgia team is now, and they probably weren't. I don't know. They might have been as good as the Alabama team was, but we just showed up ready, man. Like you show up, sometimes you got the edge and you feel good. You've prepared. You believe in what you're doing. You think you're going to win, and it all comes together. And it did that day in December of 2005. We just smoked them in the Georgia Dome.
Yeah.
Now then we got beat bad by West Virginia in the Sugar Bowl, but we didn't want to be in that game. We want to be in the national championship. So when we kind of got snuffed out of that, it stunk. But yeah, it's just awesome, man. Like every year for us, we set goals at the beginning of the season as a team. And our biggest goal every single year, every year was to win the SEC. Because it's hard. It's arguably harder to win the SEC than it is to win a national championship.
Yeah.
And when you win the SEC, you're in the national conversation. So for us, we'd want to win national championships, but our goal was to win the SEC because it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that twice, play for it 3 times, I mean, that's probably my single proudest athletic accomplishment of my life is being part of those teams. Like it's super special.
So you talked about having the edge, showing up in 05 and you just felt like you had that edge in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that that Georgia team feels this way, or do you think that Alabama maybe feels like they have the edge in this one?
Georgia definitely feels like they have the edge. And Bama feels good too now. Don't get me wrong. Both teams feel good right now.
Yeah.
But this Georgia team's mindset, we've used the term this year, mindset, a lot. They don't think they can lose.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's not like some kind of cocky, arrogant prick thing. There's a saying I love that confidence based on fact is not arrogance. You can write that down. Confidence based on fact is not arrogance. This team is extremely confident, and it's based on the facts of what's happened on the field for the last 3 years. And there's an expectation of winning, and it's so hard to beat the champ, man. It's hard to beat the champ. For so long, why could you not beat Bama? Because they're the champs.
Yeah.
It's hard to knock the champ out. They know how to win. And Georgia has the upper hand right now. In every aspect of the game, Georgia has the upper hand.
Yeah.
Does that mean we're bulletproof? Absolutely not. Do you ever think you're on boat race Nick Saban? Absolutely not. Are you nervous about Jalen Milroe? You darn sure are. Are you nervous about Dallas turning off the edge? Oh, yeah. Are you concerned about Isaiah Bond and his crew over there on their receivers getting behind you and making some big plays? Yeah, you are. Jalen Milroe can run, and Jalen Milroe is a lot better than we are at throwing the deep ball. So those are 2 areas that really concern us. But Georgia feels good. They feel like they've got the edge. They've got the mindset. They've got the mentality of where you want them to be. I mean, what more could you want as a Dog fan right now?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What are keys to what does Georgia have to do? Obviously, I mean, you'll preach it every single week till the cows come home. Is you got to win in the trenches.
Got to win in the trenches.
But outside of that, what else is there that Georgia needs to do?
It's the boring crap that Kirby talks about every week. We're like, Coach, tell us something real. I am telling you stuff real. You're just not listening. Don't turn the ball over.
Yeah.
Don't get a bunch of STDs, special teams debacles. You know what that is. Like,
It took Bobby a minute.
He did. He was like,
yeah,
no,
I was like, what does that have anything to do?
Yeah, you gotta, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Special teams debacles.
Got it.
Don't turn the ball over.
Limit explosives.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Jalen Milroe.
Well, and that's probably the biggest concern with what they do.
Yeah.
Like you want to survive the early onslaught for this Georgia team. Like the other thing is too for Georgia this week, like they've got to start better, man. You can't go down 14-0 to Bama.
No.
You might go down 7-0. I assume we'll just bottom 7 and go down 7-0. That's what we've done all freaking year long. Just go down 7-0 and then come back from there. But you can't spot Bama 14 points. They're too good.
Yeah.
They probably have the second best roster in college football behind Georgia. So you can't spot them that. So I think for Georgia, the key is going to be starting quick. That doesn't mean you got to go out and just demolish them, scorched earth, score.
Right.
But you need to get to the halftime. And worst case for Georgia, be a one possession game.
Yeah.
Then you feel good about where you're at. I'd rather go ahead and be 3 possessions ahead at halftime. And then you got to win the trenches. Like football is not fancy. At the end of the day, we line up in a lot of formations. We put some receivers over here. We motion a back here. We get a receiver on this side and then shift the tight end away. We get in this formation where we move the quarterback over here, and then we move the running back here, and then we hand the ball to Hayes King, and he fakes reverse and goes to throw a pass and then runs it for 20 yards. Do you know why? Because they beat us on the line of scrimmage. Our defense being turned and ran. That way they confused us and beat us up front. At the end of the day, football in the SEC, in the SEC championship game, when Georgia plays Alabama, is about who's bigger and who's nastier and who wants it more in the front seven. Receivers and DBs don't win football games. They're a big part of it. You got to have them, and both teams are really good there. But whoever wins where the men play there by the ball wins the game. As long as you don't have STDs and turnovers.
Yeah.
And I don't expect that out of Georgia this week, by the way.
Yeah.
Turnovers and special teams. So they've been excellent in those areas this year.
They really have. I mean,
But to your point, look at the Georgia Tech game. Tech gets the ball. Georgia stops them 3 and out, 4 and out. Get the ball back. Then Georgia fumbles it on the first play.
Yep.
Gives up a touchdown. And then towards the end there, as Bobby, you're talking about in the third, fourth quarter when it got to be a little bit tighter, what happened? You threw an interception. Then you let them drive 80 yards on you. That's 14 points off of turnovers. It shouldn't be, 31-23. It should have been, 45-9. But you give up 14 points. So every time when you say, hey, what's the key to the game? Limit turnovers. Everyone just kind of like, well, of course. No. You want to see a coach lose his damn mind. What any turnover. And Georgia's even on the season, which is not good. You're not ahead. This has not been a very good turnover team. But that's the fear is like, if you give Milroe 2 extra drives, you've lost this football game.
100%.
You might lose it by 14 points. So limit him. And if you can gain one on him, that's big. And then you saw the muff punt that went out of bounds. Thank goodness. Like you said, the special teams disasters. Every time it's every upset is penalties, special teams, and turnovers.
No doubt.
And people go, well, that's boring. You give me something really good. What about spying this? I'm like, it doesn't matter if you can spy. Kirby Smart said in the press conference, he's like, we have to be able to stop the run. He didn't want to hear all this questions about Jalen Milroe. He said, look, if we can't stop the run, they're just going to hand the ball off and win. And people are like, well, that's boring. Yeah,
by the way,
you saw boring when you saw Michigan, Ohio State. What does Michigan do? They line up 14 guys to the right of the center. To the left of the center. They're like, we got bigger men than you. We're going unbalanced, and there's nothing you do to stop it.
Nope.
And they'll run it 30 times in a row.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the spy thing. The spy thing is overrated in a lot of college football, especially against a guy like Jalen Milroe. By the way, because here's the deal with Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe, if you put a linebacker trying to spy him, he's faster than that linebacker. If you put a safety trying to spy him, he's too big for that guy to tackle. Like, do you know how hard it is to tackle that guy in space? If he gets a head of steam coming at you, it's hard to tackle him.
Yeah.
So I don't think you'll see some situation where Georgia has a spy on Jalen Milroe right there. But it's not going to be you rush 2 and let him scramble around all day. You just won't get to him. He's too good of an athlete for that. So you need that. And then, let's not – we're already over our time. This is our show. We can keep going. So
we can go as long as you want. Okay.
It ain't gonna be that much longer. I go to bed early. I'm not a blame the ref. Back to Tech for a second.
Yeah.
I'm not a blame the ref guy, but there were 3 calls in that game, by the way, that changed that made it a 31-23 game instead of a blowout. Do you remember the calls?
I remember vaguely.
All right. They called Dylan Bell's touchdown back on I think they called holding on trust.
Right.
I get that one flipped with the other one. But they called holding on trust. Referees they overthink a lot, and they've now confused a pancake block with a hold in a lot of situations. Trust buried the guy, and on the way to the ground, the jersey pulled apart from his pads as the guy was going to the ground, and they called holding, called a touchdown back.
Was that not the Cedric, or was that the Cedric illegal man downfield?
So that might have been it then.
I think
there were 2 touchdowns that got called back.
Yes.
And that was the other one then. So it doesn't matter.
And he was right on the –
It's 2 yards. In the RPO game we're at now, nobody on the field – and nobody on the field other than the quarterback knows if it's going to be a run or a pass. Nobody else does. Receivers, running backs, defense backs, offensive linemen, linebackers. Nobody knows if it's a run pass other than the quarterback. And if you go turn the film on any game out there where teams do RPO, run pass option stuff, linemen are downfield 3 or 4 yards all the time. So that was a ticky tack call.
That was Cedric Van Pran's fault.
Yeah.
Because when he realized where he was, he dropped down, put his hands on his head like, I effed up. And the ref looks at him and goes, oh, yeah. He reaches in his pocket, throws it down. So you're not supposed to be here. It's like, dude, don't
do your hands up like that, man.
Yeah,
don't do this.
Yeah, it's like, I can't believe, like banging your head like, oh, what's upset? Why are you upset, young man? Oh, yeah. You're a half yard further than where you're supposed to be. Man, don't.
Yep. And then
I'll be that honest.
Then the third was the face mask call they got us over there. That was not a face mask, where our hands on the guy's helmet, gave him 15 yards in the first, and we had to stop. So, it's crazy, man. Like, we do all that talk. I got on my soapbox while I go about big nasty linemen, but 2 or 3 plays a game are what make the difference in these big games. And you hope the refs don't decide. You hope the refs don't decide it for us or them. Honestly, I mean, I'd rather just go beat Bama. Now, if they're going to decide it, I want to decide it for us. But you want the refs to stay out of the game. You want the teams to stay healthy. And you want to go out there and beat the best with the best.
Gonna have to do it Saturday. I'll tell you that much. It is the best versus the best, and oh my gosh, yeah. I think Bama is a much better team than what they have played earlier in this year and what they're currently ranked. I think they're, that one loss to Texas is really, really hurting them.
Yep.
And yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah,
nervous.
It's gonna be fun. I'm ready to watch them.
Are you gonna be there?
Negative. No. My wife. I obviously love my wife. Talk about her a lot.
Yeah.
She won't go back to watch Georgia play Bama. We were there, man, in 2018 when we had 2nd and 26, and Tua comes in and rips our heart outs down there, and we were up in the upper deck in the end zone where they scored, and I remember like it was yesterday. I saw the ball in the air. And when he went to throw the ball, I saw him look over to his right. And when he flipped his shoulders, I bent down, I picked up myself and started walking. And like everybody else still cheering, going nuts. Well, where are you going? And then I was already in the aisle walking when the dude caught the ball. So she's not going back until we beat Bama in Atlanta. So we're going to have a big, fat ribeye, probably some spinalis, maybe a tomahawk.
Yeah.
On some open fire. And we're going to be eating a lot of beef watching the Dogs bring this one home.
There you go. Talking about barbecue. Did you go anywhere this past week? Well, this past week was Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thursday was.
No, I smoked the brisket, smoked the turkey, and that's all good. But this weekend, I'll tease it. I'll tease my other stuff on here. So I do barbecue reviews, and I do on my personal social media stuff every week.
Right.
And this week we're going to Atlanta on Friday for it.
Okay.
To one of the most famous places in Georgia. We're going to Fox Brothers, and the guys who are taking with me, a couple of UJ All-Americans reached out, wanted to do it, going with Drew Butler and Clint Bowling. So Drew Butler, Clint Bowling.
2 quality human beings there.
Yes, they are. So we're going to Fox Brothers on Friday, and we'll post that on my social media, Facebook and Instagram, Friday afternoon about 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's fun stuff. Cool.
Yeah.
Well,
don't tell Drew I said anything nice about him, though.
I won't. Don't worry.
Yeah. That's gonna be a lot of fun. But that you said Friday, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You'll probably want to stay away from Atlanta on Saturday. That place.
I won't be over there.
I know it's gonna be a madhouse. But anyways, thank you guys as always for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications. Dawgs and Hawgs back here again next Wednesday. We're here every single Wednesday, giving you guys, just some insight on some Georgia football and some of Russ Tanner's legendary commentary and reminiscent upon his days in the SEC and playing in some tough matchups. So Thank you, Russ, for everything. Roddy, thanks for controlling the comments and joining us here. Thank you to the fans for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next week on Dawgs and Hawgs. Go Dogs.